Alright, hello and welcome to the Art of Artisan. I am doing pretty awful right now. I'm on a new medication for something that's going on and it is having terrible side effects. I'm not going to edit this video, I'm going to take it in one cut. I'm sorry, but I do want to share something this week. My last video before Streets of New Capenna comes out and I start going ham with the new set. We are playing today a Reanimator deck, and out of all the Artisan cards we can reanimate, I would argue that Dreadhound is the best. Now, Dreadhound looks kind of mediocre. It just mills 3 cards. It's a 6/6. But that last ability, whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life. That means sometimes if we get the board clogged with creatures, this can do something sort of similar to Meat Hook Massacre, where if our opponent destroys the whole board, they actually just lose a ton of life and lose the game. So Dreadhound is a very powerful reanimation target, and being only 6 mana means we can often just straight up cast it instead of reanimating it. The last thing that we need to know, though, when we're doing a Dreadhound deck, is our deck needs to be filled with creatures. So I'll get to that in a second. Our backup reanimation targets are Brambleworm, which we can also use to just gain life and survive for a little bit longer when it's in our graveyard. And Bookworm against Control. Sometimes we're hard casting this and just looping it back to the top of our library over and over. It's just a one-of, just in case we ever need it. But our deck has a solid plan for milling. We've got Warlock class, which can, when it turns to level 2, can dump stuff into our graveyard. Death Bonnet Sprout, which mills 1 every turn. Undead Butler, which mills 3 when it comes into play. Eccentric Farmer, which mills 3 when it comes into play. And sadly, in Golgari, the best discard we have is Heirloom Mirror. This card's pretty bad, but sometimes we do end up with a Bookworm in our hand and we just need to get rid of it and replace it with something better, or we have Reanimation in our hand and we need to get something in the graveyard to reanimate. So Heirloom Mirror is the best we've got. We're running 2 of it just in case. Now, like I said, Dreadhound is only 6, so we want to be running Ramp as well. This is sort of a Ramp/Reanimator deck, which is part of the power of running it over a more high power deck with rares, is we can cast this card just naturally. So we've got Reclusive Taxidermist, which is really powerful in this deck, and Tangled Florahedron as one of our lands. You can see we don't have a ton of lands, but Tangled Florahedron is nice because it triggers Dreadhound whenever we mill it. So this is, and of course our Reanimation, Return Upon the Tide is nice because we can foretell it. Diregraph Rebirth is nice because we're going to be milling a lot, and we'll fairly often be able to cast this from our graveyard. Gives us a decent amount of inevitability. And that is Standard Artisan Reanimator. So let's get into the games and see how it does. Also, I really do apologize for not editing this video. I'm partially doing this YouTube series for my own health, but also because I want to get videos out there and give you guys deck ideas. So if you're not wanting to watch a crappily edited video, just look at the deck list, copy it. This deck is fairly good. Skip to the end, see the recap, see what record I got. Ugh. But yeah, I'm doing this because I'm committed to doing a video a week, but I am doing really bad right now. So sorry. Alright, against Praxis 131. And I think, despite having Dreadhound in hand, we'd usually rather it in graveyard, this hand has a lot of good early game, so I think we keep it. We're going to play Tangled Florahedron as our first play, so we can play Death Bonnet and Warlock class right in a row. And I think we should be able to get up to Dreadhound this game before we die. Undead Butler is a sweet blocker, and I think we're actually just going to have to run him out first now. Just to stop this Fireblade Charger. That's a Brambleworm. Reanimation. Reanimating this shuts down just about every aggro deck pretty easily. Are they going to kill it? I'm happy with that trade. Sweet. Alrighty. Yeah, Undead Butler, fantastic card. If you're looking for budget decks, like, it's worth building graveyard stuff into your deck just to have Undead Butler. It's so good. Looks like we're playing lots of Death Bonnet Sprouts this game. And Warlock class. And we'll just pass the turn there. Hopefully our opponent doesn't pop off too hard. Battlecry Goblin, another great budget card. They shouldn't be able to do anything crazy with it this turn, though. They can just pump once. Okay, yeah, they're not going to get the free Goblin off of it. So we'll just let them hit us. We got one creature in the graveyard. Alright, so they're not going to flip this turn. But I think we will activate Warlock class. And, okay, that's another Dreadhound. This is a bit of a greedy line. But I'm going to grab the Dreadhound and hope that we just get to the point where we can start playing them like crazy. So I'm going to play Tangled Florahedron. How many? We still only have 2. Death Bonnet Sprouts might not flip again, which would be really bad. And we're going to let our opponent go a little wide here. Battlecry Goblin's going to cause us some issues. But if we draw a land, we can just start chaining Dreadhound into Dreadhound. And with 2 Dreadhounds on the board, if our opponent all-out swings, we pretty much just win the game. No blocks. Eek. 8 life. Please mill a creature. Nope. Yes. Okay. Oh, that's not the right. That's not the right land that we want. But we will start chaining together Dreadhounds next turn. And we can just exile Brambleworm this turn. Like, as soon as our opponent attacks, like if we know that we're going to die, we just exile Brambleworm. Although, I'm not going to do it immediately because I want to keep it in the graveyard. Because it guarantees that these Death Bonnet Sprouts will flip. So if I don't need to, I'd like to not flip it. But, alright. I have to block this Battlecry Goblin. Like, I can't let that keep popping off. So I think we just block the Battlecry. And do we block anything else? Yeah, with this Fireblade Charger coming in, I think it's wise to block something else. Because this can potentially be more damage later for our opponent. Oh shoot. Okay. I thought that I just forgot to exile Brambleworm. I think I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to have the mana to do it later. Death Bonnet Sprout. Mills. Okay, Diregraph Rebirth. That can be really helpful soon. If I play this, what kills me? Opponent could draw land, play another Battlecry Goblin, and pump everything. But that's not super likely. With Dreadhound, I have multiple blockers for my opponent. If I play Taxidermist, it'll be a 4/4, which is a solid blocker. But I won't really get to do anything else. So yeah, Dreadhound it is. Hope that our opponent doesn't have land Battlecry Goblin. Ooh, nothing good milled. Our opponent is playing a budget deck as well. That's kind of fun. I have yet to see a single rare. Yeah, this is actually oh my goodness, that's it. That's the card that we did not want to see. And that's lethal, I believe. Oh, no, it isn't. Okay, we survived barely. We survived super barely. Right? No, we do not. We die barely. Ugh. Oh, man, that's rough. Okay. Opponent top deck's exactly what they need. I literally said that was what would kill us. Well, bad start. We didn't really get our reanimation game going. And we didn't get... Our deck is usually fairly good against aggressive decks because we've got a lot of like 2/3s and 1/2s. But we just didn't get them that game. Alright, game number 2. Let's hope that this game we actually get to see some reanimation going off. That game, it just sort of looked like the only value we got off of filling our graveyard was exiling the Brambleworm, which was helpful, but not helpful enough. Okay, this is pretty similar to last game where we'd just be trying to hard cast Dreadhounds. But do we go for it this time? We do have Farmer, which guarantees we're going to hit a land, well, almost guarantees we hit a land drop. We do have Reanimation, but I think we mulligan this. It's just not going to... Okay, this is better. Yeah, this is better. Undead Butler is really nice. So we'll just dump the Dreadhound. And we'll see what our opponent's up to. Okay, we both mulligan down to 6. And Ralpho 3. Oh, playing some sort of snow deck. So black and snow makes me think they're probably going to be playing... Oh, what's the name of the card? It's a really annoying card. Blood on the Snow is one, and then... I can't remember the name of the other one. Finale of Devastation, something like that. Invoke Despair. There we go, that's what it's called. Wow, I'm blanking hard. Alright, next turn, if our opponent... Alright, so they're just white-black control. Mid-range. Mid-range more than control. But we should be able to reanimate this Brambleworm, this Bookworm this next turn. That should be really good against a mid-range opponent. Like, sure, they're probably just going to exile in response, but we get the free card draw, a little bit of life. Feels like it should be pretty solid here. Okay. We will... yeah, we'll swing in with the Butler, see if our opponent does anything, wastes any cards. They might. Bonk. And we will return Bookworm to the battlefield. If our opponent doesn't have anything that attacks our graveyard, yep. That's turn 4, a 7/7 with Trample that gains us life and draws a card. That is not too shabby. Ooh, and we might just be able to ramp into Brambleworm soon. Yep, Vanishing Verse. These white-black decks love Vanishing Verse. There are some really funny budget cards that just ruin these decks because they dodge Vanishing Verse. I love it every time. Okay, Undead Butler. Mills us 3. Then, okay, that's a Brambleworm that we can reanimate very soon. And then I think we just drop Reclusive Taxidermist because it's going to dodge any sort of Meat Hook Massacre our opponent could play. Yeah, because they're going to have 5 mana, so they could only Meat Hook for 3. So they are in trouble here as far as answering our board. They could be running Farewell. Looks like they're doing Mardu. Okay, yeah. So they Meat Hook, but it's not going to be enough. Let me check. Do I actually want to exile these? I can get back an Undead Butler and an Eccentric Farmer. Okay, yeah, that's worth it. Let's get back an Undead Butler. Actually, we'll just get back 2 Undead Butlers, I think. Yep. Undead Butler time. Oh, but pulling stuff out of my graveyard killed that too. That was smart. My opponent. And dumb of me. Okay, so well played opponent. Bad played me. Oh boy. Our graveyard is filled with reanimation. And reanimation targets. This is where Diregraph Rebirth looks really good. It's a lot of inevitability for our opponent because they just can't keep answering these Brambleworms. Eventually, one of them's going to stick to the battlefield. Dreadhound. I like that card. Sadly, no lands yet, but we will just reanimate a Brambleworm and see where that takes us. Gaining 5 life. Opponent probably has another Vanishing Verse they're going to throw at it. We'll leave back the Butlers to double block their Goblin. Okay, they're desperate, actually. They're scared of our Brambleworm. That's good. And this meat hook, the drain on it, is not really that effective against us because Brambleworm, like, we gain a bunch of life with these worms. At first, I didn't really like them in the deck, but I have grown to like them more and more the more I've tried doing Reanimator strategies. Very nice effect. Okay, Blood on the Snow. They're going to return back the Shambling Gas. They played it just to return it. Oh, that's funny. Give itself -1/-1. Do it. Let me check at the graveyard. So we have 2 guys in the graveyard. Okay, so we can pull back Eccentric Farmer and Reclusive Taxidermist. Those are both worth it. We'll take Eccentric Farmer. We will take Reclusive Taxidermist. Well, I just love how grindy this deck can be. If our opponent doesn't kill us off right off the bat, they have to fight us for a long time. So we just keep on putting down threats. I mean, like, I feel like against mid-rangey decks, the way that they win might actually just be milling us out. We'll just play a Taxidermist. Nice 4/4. And these are the creatures that really shut down aggro. Like Eccentric Farmer, even if I'm not playing budget, I actually would consider this card if I'm doing anything with my graveyard. It's pretty much a 2/3 that draws a card when it enters the battlefield. I mean, it's a land that you draw, but like it does a lot for being a 3-drop if you do care about the graveyard. This next turn we could just reanimate a Brambleworm, but I think we'll play Dreadhound. Start getting some drain on our opponent. Because if they wipe the board, it'll actually start draining them for life. Oh yeah, especially where we've got another creature. So, creature, and then Dreadhound. And hopefully our opponent doesn't exile Dreadhound. I'd much rather them, like, wrath the board. Mill 3. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Okay, we have all 4 Diagraph Rebirths in our graveyard. But we don't have any more Dreadhounds. Dreadhound's like the second one, every creature you mill. Ah, darn. Like, but once you play the second one, each creature milled is 2 life, and then the third one mills 3 cards. Like, if you have all 4 Dreadhounds, the 4th one you play could potentially just drain your opponent for 12 right on the spot. Now, you're never going to get all 4 Dreadhounds, but it is pretty cool to have them stack so nicely. Goldspan Dragon's nice, but we do have big worms to block it with. Oh, double Goldspan is really nice. Okay, I see you, opponent. Yeah, they can hit us for a lot of damage here. But I think we're going to hit them back harder. Sorin, that's a good card. Not good enough if they can make a vampire to block, but we're going to have 2 threats that can get in at him pretty strong. Yeah, not looking too great for our opponent. Mill flip. Land. Land is acceptable. I think, so first step is we attack. So we're going to send 4 at our opponent's face. And then both of these at Sorin. So that if they block either with the vampire, they don't actually save Sorin. Now, if they have a removal spell for Death Bonnet Hulk and block Eccentric Farmer, that's not too great. But, yeah, that looks like the right play, opponent. Okay, then we hit them. And a creature died this turn, but that's not going to be enough to actually let us play multiple rebirths. Yeah, this gets cheaper every time a creature dies, so in case something crazy happened and they like destroyed everything on the board, we could just reanimate a bunch of times this turn. And that would be pretty nice. Yeah, Brambleworm. Good answer to Goldspan Dragon. It blocks it, and it gains us life to make the aggro not matter that much. Okay, that's an exile effect. But we've got 2 more coming for the next couple turns. We're actually doing a good job of pressuring them. And then this is going to start exiling any creatures they've got in the graveyard. So Blood on the Snow is Well, I guess whatever they kill that's already on the board will be powerful enough. But still, they're only down to 2 cards in hand. And with these, we've got like 4 cards in hand, and they're all really big effects. Although the meat hook draining us actually is starting to matter a bit more. We'll exile Shambling Ghast. Okay, that's good. I think we just swing everything at their face. Is that correct? Yes, I think it's correct. Okay, opponent, what you gonna do? That was a weird visual glitch. Okay, they block Taxidermist. They get beaten for a bit. One moment, my wife is calling. Hey, Janai. No, I'm in the middle of recording a video. Say hi, YouTube. No, just kidding. It will take 30 minutes probably from here. Okay. See ya. Bye-bye. She's the best. Actually the best. Like, I know some of you probably, like, someone out there is married and they're like, actually, my wife's the best, but you're wrong. She's the best. Anyways, good time for my wife to call. Her opponent's taking forever to make decisions. Ooh, look at these 2-mana Diregraph rebirths. Looking particularly good. I wish it was instant speed, because playing that, like, if your opponent wraths and you could just rebirth in response, oh, that'd be so ridiculously good. Like, too good. Definitely shouldn't actually be a thing, but it'd be fun. Did they exile our Bookworm? Yeah, that was the first thing that happened this game. Okay, opponent, they need to keep stopping our Brambleworms. Like, how many have we played now? We've looped, I think, 3, 4, 5. I think we've played 4 or 5 of these, so we should be dead already, just on life total. Ooh, that's good. That's really good. And our opponent has nothing going on. Okay, that's damage to the face. That will counteract any life gain they could get off of Meat Hook Massacre. And now whenever any of their creatures dies, both players lose 1 life, which is good for us, because we are currently the aggressor here. Next turn we can just drop another Brambleworm. Alright, Deadly Dispute. Our opponent's desperate. They're digging. They're looking for a Wrath. But a Wrath still doesn't really save them. We're just going to keep going. Keep applying pressure. Oh no! Farewell! Farewell to our hopes of winning. Oh, that was bad. This Taxidermist not looking too good. Oh, I hope they don't have removal. I hope they do not have removal. I'm just going to go risky and play Taxidermist as well. Maybe not the best play here, but there's a chance I draw a Dreadhound and like mill 3 creatures and it turns into a 4/4. Oh, that was not a good one though. Oh my goodness, Meat Hook for 6. Oh, the dream is dying. The dream is dying. Okay, Return Upon the Tide. How many of those do we still have? Okay, there's 2 in our graveyard, and 2 in our exile. Okay, Heirloom Mirror. Alright, this will help filter our draws, and then we've got Witherbloom Campus to help as well. End turn. We are not going to exile this from our graveyard. It is one of our few threats left in our deck. Oh my goodness. That Farewell was particularly good. Oh, that really hurt. And now we are in trouble. Okay, time for some scrying. We want Dreadhounds. We still have like 3 in the deck. We do not want lands. Okay, Eccentric Farmer. There's no chance of us milling a card that we want to mill at this point, because all 4 of our rebirths are in our graveyard, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. So any creatures we mill do nothing. All of our undead butlers are dead. So we do not actually want this eccentric farmer. It is kind of worthless right now. Oh no, Dreadhound! Ugh. Heirloom Mirror. Come on. Okay. Return Upon the Tide now is a great card that we want. We'd really like to draw. How many of those do we have left? Yeah, there's 3 in there. Oh, yeah, because we've only got 1 left in the deck. Okay, Return Upon the Tide, one of our Dreadhounds, which there are 2 of. So that's 3 hits left in our deck. And we're going to get to Scry and use Heirloom Mirror. Okay, our opponent hits us. Not looking good. We may mill out this game. That is looking very likely. Swamp. We do not want Swamp. If this mills another Dreadhound or another card we want, I'll be super mad. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We will accept that. And our hope is to just swing at our opponent's face and hope that somehow we get like a Dreadhound and that ends up giving us lethal. Dreadhound is definitely our best way of getting reach against these Lolth tokens. Because we can just directly hit our opponent's face with Dreadhound damage. 11 cards left in the deck. Are we going to be so efficient at filling our graveyard that we mill out before our control opponent? Can actually kill us. Like, Brambleworms gained us so much life this game. Okay, that's the clock that probably finishes the game. Return Upon the Tide could save us at this point. But now they're going to deal 8 damage and then 8 damage again. If I draw a creature, I could use it to block 1 spider. But I'm probably just going to use Heirloom Mirror, which loses me a life. Which means I am super dead, especially with that wolf. Okay, is there any possible chance that I win this? Do the math, do the math. Okay, I'm probably going to have to exile the Brambleworm from my graveyard if I want to survive 1 more turn. I'm not going to want to land. Do I exile Bramble? Yes, I'm going to have to exile Brambleworm at some point. There's no chance that I'm going to choose that as my... Oh my goodness, lands! Don't mill a Dreadhound. Don't mill that either. Our opponent has 12 damage. We can't block any of it. That's the game. Woo! 0-2. We were looking super solid until that farewell. Our opponent was like desperately digging until they finally found it. Alrighty. Game number 3. I'm wondering if I'm making misplays because my head is not in the right place right now. Let me know in the comments if I'm playing super crappily and this is super painful to watch. Alright. Round 3. There's still a chance of us getting a winning record with this deck. I mean, it actually has felt fairly good every game. It felt like we're close to winning at some point every single game. Okay. Here's a hand where I would not keep it if it were not for Heirloom Mirror. Heirloom Mirror means these Brambleworms can get in our graveyard and then Return Upon the Tide. I think this is actually an okay hand. It's not like fantastic. Hello, opponent. Ooh. Ooh. Opponent's playing something spicy. Some sort of graveyard deck. I hear those are cool. Alrighty. I see you, opponent. And they're green-black? Oh, man. Ooh. Their graveyard ramp? Is this the mirror match? Oh my goodness, I think we may be facing a mirror match right now. And that makes me actually really happy. This is cool. Okay. So yeah, next turn we can play Return Upon the Tide even if it's not foretold. So we're just going to do this now. Dump 1 into the graveyard, draw a card. And Sure, we'll attack. I don't think there's any way we get blown out here. Yep. And it makes it less likely that our opponent tries to remove our taxidermist because it's not looking like a huge threat at the moment. Ooh, Asika's Chariot. Is this just Golgari Ramp? And they just happen to be playing Death Bonnet Sprout? Like, why do they have the graveyard synergies? That's the thing I'm not sure about looking at our opponent's deck so far. But I do know what we are going to do this turn. I do know what our deck is doing. And it is, if our opponent is light on removal, they may be super devoted to this ramp and reanimator plan or something. They may not actually have removal for our Brambleworm. Although they are looking at it like they might. Alright. Opponent's turn. And like worst case, in 2 turns we can just drop another Brambleworm directly into play with Witherbloom Campus into Forest. But this Brambleworm stonewalls their Asika's Chariot pretty hard. Now the Witherbloom command. So they definitely want to be filling their graveyard with this mills 3 cards. And Golgari is probably because they're trying to do... Ooh, that's Renin 7, another graveyard-based card that's just good stuff. So our opponent's playing some sort of good stuff deck. But they've got a mill sub-theme. And it looks like it's a very rampy... Rampy... Okay, Renin 7. They may... Oh, yikes. Renin 7 plus Asika's Chariot. That is a scary combo. Ooh. But I also have a good card. Okay, this means I won't play Brambleworm next turn. But it means I play Dreadhound this turn. So let's swing in with Brambleworm first. Make our opponent go, wait, what the heck? Why are they swinging? See what they do. They may try to kill it because it's our only big threat right now. But they do not. And now we just drop Dreadhound, which can also block Asika's Chariot. And it now means that our opponent is at a fairly low life total. Because if we just chump block a bunch, we can actually start dealing damage directly to our opponent's face with Dreadhound. And their removal is not that effective. Ooh, Culling Ritual is not going to be very good against our deck. Not very good at all. That's going to make a 6/6. That's scary. And then they probably just swing in with Asika's Chariot just to make another 6/6. Which is also scary. Alright. They attack. Oops. Oops. They accidentally double crewed Chariot. Oh, that's a huge mistake for our opponent. Ooh, that could actually cost them a bunch. We might be able to kill Renin 7 now, which will be nice. Diagraph Rebirth. That is a card that we want to draw. Okay, what are the odds that enough things die this turn? Okay, how many things would we need to die to cast this twice? We would need 5 things to die. I guess only 4 things to die. If we swing both of these at our opponent's face, do we think we can make that happen? Probably not. So I think I just pull in the Dreadhound right off the bat, which will put some more pressure on our opponent's life total and make it harder for them to block. That's 4 damage to their face. And now I think we just double swing at their face. Do we triple swing? I mean, at most this deals 2 damage to them if they kill it by blocking it. I think that's actually worth it. We are very much ahead on life here. Okay, yeah, we'll do it. What's your plan, opponent? Okay, they block there. They block there. That's the game. That's Dreadhound. That is Dreadhound doing Dreadhound things. So yeah, that's where Dreadhound is really powerful, when we're on this state where we're kind of blocking out each other, which is why I, once again, like Eccentric Farmer in this deck. But once the board gets big enough, Dreadhound makes blocking super hard for your opponent. And there we go, that was a win. Our opponent was playing a pretty cool... I'm not sure why they had the graveyard shenanigans still. I guess they just had cards to retrieve stuff from the graveyard. Maybe they just really wanted to play Renin 7 a bunch. Make sure they had whatever the season's renewal or whatever was they played to get it back. That could be the reason they were doing that. I'm not quite sure, but we beat them. We were the better graveyard ramp deck, despite our opponent having Asika's Chariot into Renin 7, which is a very scary combo. I mean, they can make a 6/6 Tree Folk every turn. I think them accidentally double crewing the Chariot was the reason we actually won there. But I think we could have pulled it off anyways, just with the Dreadhound drain. I don't think that deck would have had any life gain. And this is a great hand. We're actually going to curve out despite our terrible curve. And we get to go first. This should be really good. Eccentric Farmer means we're going to guaranteed get like our 4th land drop. We're going to fill our graveyard pretty fast between these two. So hopefully Return Upon the Tide will have a good target. And we'll be able to cast it on turn 4. Opponent. Luciferno. Nice. Okay, Death Bonnet Sprout. Let the milling begin. Okay, opponent's playing something budgety. Ooh, Diregraph Rebirth, the even better reanimation spell. And speaking of reanimation spells, new Capenna, I'm actually really excited for Graveyard Shift. It's a very simple 5-mana reanimation spell, but if you have 5 different mana values in your graveyard, you can cast it at instant speed. So you can flash it in, and that means you can catch opponents by surprise so well with it. Like, there's some crazy stuff you could potentially do with it. Okay, so there's a couple lines we can take here. We can play Tangled Florahedron and foretell this, but we don't have anything we want to reanimate. So nope, never mind, there's one line. Play Eccentric Farmer. If we mill 2 creatures, this turns into a 4/4. Alright, lands, and we will take a forest, and we will not attack. Next turn, we still have nothing to reanimate. That's not good. So next turn, I think we just foretell this and play Tangled Florahedron and hope we draw into something to mill us some more. And that will ramp us up enough that we can play just about anything in our deck. That might be the way to go. Our opponent, so here we have our high toughness creatures, making it a little hard for our opponent to attack. And we will block that. Oh yeah, we're going to block. Okay, our opponent, do they have something that costs 1 red? What could they have that costs 1 red? It could be a problem for us here. Something that gives first strike? You know what, I think we're actually going to take it. It scares me that they went into full control there. Oh, don't remove our taxidermist. Don't remove our taxidermist. That would make me sad. Okay, they want to spend their spell on something. They're trying to decide what to remove, though. I think it's Frostbite. Probably Frostbite. Okay. That's actually probably one of the better choices for them. The Dreadhound. We are close to being able to play Dreadhound. And that should mill us into more things to... Yeah, this is good. Okay. So we can just foretell that. We can play this. And we can hold back. Next turn, we'll just straight up play Dreadhound, and that should get us into a chain of targets to reanimate. Like if we mill another Dreadhound, then we can return it, which may mill us into something else to reanimate. And then I think we're going to be a little bit too big of creatures for our opponent to keep up with. However, if our opponent removes one of our mana dorks, and we don't draw land. Actually, they just need to remove taxidermists, because then we only have one black source. That would be an issue. But we'll see what our opponent has this turn. Looks like a fairly budget version of werewolves. Maybe not that budget. Dang. Good cards, all of these. We're going to get some serious card draw going here. I don't think they have Frostbite again, though, so I think we may be good to try and block them. Do we block? Do we block? Do we block? Or do we just go really low health and hope? Low health and hope. The way we win this is we just start, like, we get bramble worms and stuff like that to just gain life and get back in this and wall out everything. And green-red, they do not have really anything to remove our Dreadhound. Like, they can pump up Werewolf Pack Leader and then Blizzard Brawl with that. That's like the best they can do. And I'm scared though, because they've got more coming. Boy, they really like to take their time. This is a week where I'm especially sorry for the unedited video. Okay. Dreadhound. And that should turn on our Reclusive Taxidermist as well, hopefully. There we go. Okay. Taxidermist is turned on. We have a blocker that is very hard for our opponent to deal with. It has not flipped tonight, so Reckless Stormseeker and Kessig Naturalist not looking too good. There's even a chance if they do flip it tonight that we can double spell. If we draw something cheap, we can return Upon the Tide and have 3 mana left over. That could potentially be great. Ooh, unless our opponent just kills us here. Oh, unless our opponent kills us here. Do they have lethal? Oh, please don't have lethal. Okay. So we want Dreadhound to block maximum. We need all of our creatures to like block maximum possible damage. So what can we let through? If we let through Primal Adversary and Kessig Naturalist, we can just hope our opponent doesn't have any sort of pump spell or anything. Is this the right call? We keep a lot of our board, which means we're really good at stopping our opponent in the next turns. Are we okay with stuff dying? That's the next question. We are okay with some stuff dying, but we're already blocking pretty much the best we can. We want to kill these pack leaders. That's how our opponent's drawing cards. Okay, 1 life. We are okay with stuff dying because we can reanimate it, but good game. Oh, okay. Alrighty. We officially have a losing record with this deck. That's sad. But can we make it at least a close losing record? Yeah, that game would have been a lot better if we ever milled a Brambleworm. Brambleworm is the answer to those aggro decks. Would have been a much better choice then. Like, Dreadhound gives us reach. Brambleworm gets us back in the game. So depending on the matchup, you usually want one or the other. This is actually a deck that does fairly well in best of 3. Like, opponents will bring in Go Blank, which can hit out your graveyard. But there isn't a ton of graveyard hate in best of 3, even. And we can sideboard a little bit better to go more all in with life gain. We can go more turbo. We can add removal. This really doesn't do much. Bookworm in our hand is not good. Eek, this does even less. Oh no. Oh, it's looking like we're going to go 1-4. It's looking like a 1-4. Well, we dump Heirloom Mirror. I think we dump a Swamp. Eek. Okay. We're on the play with a Multi 5. We really need to draw. Okay, that's good. That's good. If Eccentric Farmer mills us the right thing, we could, like, we want to mill a creature and a land. Okay, we don't even need a land. We just need a big creature from Eccentric Farmer. And we could actually get in this. Oof, not even a creature. Alright, no attacks. Okay, now we need more mill. We need more mill. Oof. Not liking where this is going, though. Our opponent's got a fairly decent start. And we have the only... We don't have any creatures in our graveyards. These taxidermists are looking kind of poopy. Alrighty. Go, opponent. Do your worst, which is probably pretty bad. Ooh, just draw a card with that? Yeah, just draw a card with that. Oh, gosh. Oh, now they can crew up the Bank Buster, which now lets them draw with Werewolf Pack Leader. Oh, they didn't do it. Wait, are they not going to do it? Oh, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. It is the right call, opponent. Yeah, okay. Then they swing in, do the cause issues for us thing. Okay, they're not swinging with Pack Leader. Alright. Some way to get a big beefy card in our graveyard that costs 2 mana. That is not any of the requirements I just listed. Ugh. We had one game where we almost milled our entire library. This game we're just fizzling. Like, at this point, we can play, like, Undead Butler, or we could play Eccentric Farmer into Diregraph Rebirth if we have it on top with our Reclusive Taxidermists. So I really don't want to lose them. Alright, well, this is Mono Green having a pretty perfect draw. Like, this is every single good card that they can have, all in a row. They crew up the Chariot. They get a second copy of this, which at this rate is going to be bigger than anything we can tutor up, like anything we can reanimate. And everything sucks. I don't know why it's taking our opponent so long to make these decisions. We've got nothing going on. And crew it up. Yep. Nice job. They should have crewed it up with this, honestly. So that way they can draw a card off of the werewolf. So our opponent's playing pretty badly, and they're still going to win. And our only hope is to somehow mill something and reanimate it this next turn. So we can't afford to lose either of these. We could chump with this, but I'd rather use it to chump something that deals more damage later. So we're just taking everything. Very likely dead. Super likely dead. Let's see what we can get on top. Taxidermist does nothing. Death Bonnet Sprout. Woohoo! And our opponent kills us regardless of how we block. That is the 1/4. That is the worst budget deck I've played so far. A little bit disappointing. I mean, honestly, I think one of the biggest things this deck is missing is draw discard effects. Which is why the biggest upgrade that you can do to this deck, as I go into this outro, is go into blue. If you go into blue, you can add... Well, if you're in Alchemy, you can do Ogler, which is actually a really good card if you're doing any sort of graveyard-based deck. But this is the non-budget version of this sort of style of deck, where we go for Thirst for Discovery and the Celestis, which fit our plan of drawing and discarding and getting stuff into the graveyard. And Celestis, I only have 1 copy of this, but you might want to go up to 2 or 3. It's really nice as a way to ramp. And as far as finishers go, if you're going to be playing Coma. Coma is just an incredible card overall. But since we are keeping the creature package of having a bunch of creatures in our deck for Reclusive Taxidermist and stuff, Dreadfeast Demon. This is the best support for the deck, because you're going to play a bunch of dorks trying to ramp up to these reanimation effects, and then Dreadfeast Demon turns all those dorks into 6/6 flying creatures. And then like after you have 2 on the board, the next end step you end up with 4 on the board. And at that point you're going to be lethal very quickly. So this is definitely the better version of the deck, the more expensive version. Although really the only upgrades are these top end things, and then you need to upgrade your lands if you're going to go 3 color. But looking at our deck, our goal was to be better than our opponent's deck. Like, Reanimation is supposed to be, oh, I'm going to create the big thing so I don't have much interaction with my opponent, besides maybe like discard and stuff. And so if you are going to do this, oh, I don't actually have discard in the sideboard. I would recommend Duress in the sideboard at the very least. Brambleworm for life gain. You can also, if your opponent's like mono white, just hold on to Malicious Malfunctions for the first couple turns and try and blow them out. But really, this deck, it's just a little bit too slow. If you're going to be playing on the ladder, I don't think I can recommend this deck in good faith. If you're playing against friends, like with play decks, or if you join the Artisan Discord, and you want to compete there in the Artisan tournaments, this deck has actually done really well against just about every control deck that I've faced there. Just because Diregraph Rebirth into Diregraph Rebirth into Diregraph Rebirth, I just keep reanimating these Dreadhounds, and they run out of removal eventually. There isn't as much exile in Artisan. So yeah, that's Golgari Reanimator. It's not the best deck as far as Artisan goes. I'm excited when new Capenna comes out to make Grixis Reanimator. But that will not be my first video. You'll have to wait till next week to find out what that is. Hopefully, I will be doing better by then. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.